I just love to create. I love to inspire. XQC watched it, I'll watch it. I actually really like the DB Cooper story. And I haven't seen this one yet. Thanks to resub Rick in the Prime, Gregory, and Mustard.
A daring parachute escape from a flying
Mustard.
727 somewhere between wings.
A search was made of the plane immediately. We don't know who he was, where he came from, or where he went. I expect that we'll keep looking
Thanks for resub
until we
Arsenal.
find him or find out what happened.
I love the idea that a YouTuber, like, actually solves one of these things. I'm assuming he doesn't, right? But maybe he does, I don't know.
In the afternoon of November the 24th, 1971, a middle-aged man carrying a briefcase walked into Portland International Airport and purchased a one-way ticket to Seattle, Washington.
Different place, Hyper.
The man identified himself as Dan Cooper, and along with 36 other passengers and a crew of 6, he soon boarded Northwest Airlines Flight 305. Once aboard, Cooper made himself comfortable in the middle of the last row of seats on the right side of the cabin. He ordered a drink and had a smoke, because this was the 70s. Once the flight was cleared for departure, Cooper turned around and handed an envelope to Flight Attendant Florence Schaffner. Inside the envelope was a note featuring a handwritten message stating he had a bomb. Schaffner reluctantly sat down beside him and glimpsed what appeared to be
Christ, this story's so fucking wild.
Inside his briefcase. Cooper's demands were quite simple. He wanted $200,000 in cash
Joe.
and 4 parachutes.
Thank
He
you,
also
Bear.
demanded a fuel truck to stand ready to refuel the aircraft once they landed in Seattle. Should they fail to comply with his demands, he threatened to, quote, do the job. Once the flight was airborne, Schaffner went to inform the cockpit crew, while
This was in like the
attendant by the name
60s,
of
so
Mucklow
200K
remained
back
by
then was
Cooper's
nuts.
side. By using a telephone in the rear of the cabin, Mucklow acted as an intermediary between Cooper and the rest of the flight crew.
They're 70s, whatever, still a ton.
For the next hour and a half, Flight 305 maintained a holding pattern near Seattle, while local and federal authorities scrambled to procure the ransom as well as the 4 parachutes. 10,000 $20 bills were collected from a local bank, while the
Makes
owner
you
of the
resub
nearby
meme, Daddy.
skydiving school supplied the chutes. At
Yeah, I've seen it,
5:45
Park's
p.m.,
good.
more than 2 hours past its scheduled arrival, Flight 305 finally touched down in Seattle. By this point, it was well after sunset, and the aircraft was brought to a remote section of the tarmac. Once the flight came to a stop, both the ransom and the parachutes were handed over to Mucklow, who then brought them back aboard. In exchange,
How many people
Cooper
were on
permitted
board the
2 of the
plane?
flight attendants, as well as all the passengers, to disembark, many of whom had not yet realized the flight had been hijacked.
36,
With the
60?
ransom paid and only 4
36,
crew
okay.
members remaining on board, Cooper told Mucklow to inform the captain that he wanted to fly to Mexico City. They were to fly with the landing gear down, the flaps at 15 degrees and below 10,000 feet. The lights in the cabin were to be switched off, and the aft stairway, which opens from the underbelly of the fuselage, was to remain extended. 2 of Cooper's
Thanks,
demands
Resub
could
Nobly.
not be satisfied. First of all, the flight configuration he'd requested would not allow for a non-stop flight to Mexico City. As such, Cooper proposed a refueling stop in Phoenix, Yuma, or Sacramento before they all agreed on Reno, Nevada. Second of all, it was not possible.
It seems
to
like they're
park the
on
vent
Cooper's
staircase
side, like, yeah, you can
extended.
take the money and
Cooper agreed
tell us
to
where to go.
retract the stairs on the condition that Mucklow remained by his side and taught him how to extend them once the plane was airborne. Parked for nearly 2 hours due to complications with refueling, Flight 305 was back in the air by 7:36 p.m. Less than 5 minutes after takeoff, Cooper told Mucklow to head for the cockpit and that from this point onwards, he was not to be disturbed. The last time she saw
The bomb
Cooper,
turned out to be
he was
fake, though.
standing
Oh,
in the
sorry, I
middle
don't mean
of
to
the
spoil
aisle
things.
as if though he was preparing to jump. Mucklow joined the rest of the crew, locked the cockpit door behind her, and some 3 hours later, Flight 305 safely landed in Reno. Once the flight
Sorry.
came to a stop, the crew carefully
I could be wrong, I
ventured
don't
into the
really
rear of
remember
the
that.
cabin, but there was no sign of Cooper, nor the bomb. The aft stairway had been extended mid-flight and was slightly damaged upon landing. It seemed there was only one explanation for the hijacker's absence. At some point between Seattle and Reno, Cooper had strapped on a parachute, walked down the stairs, and leaped into the dark of night.
Thanks, resub beat on. I'm not sure, Bear.
As soon as it became clear that Cooper was no longer on board, dozens of FBI agents converged upon the aircraft, only to discover a disappointing amount of physical evidence. A black clip-on tie, 8 cigarette butts, and 2 of the 4 parachutes were all that Cooper left behind. Evidently he'd brought the ransom and briefcase along with him. In interviews conducted on the night of the hijacking, Cooper was described by the crew and passengers as a white male with brown eyes and dark hair. He appeared to be in his mid-40s and wore a dark trench coat, a dark suit, a white shirt, a black tie, and dark shoes. Soon after boarding, he'd also donned a pair of sunglasses. Based on this description, the FBI produced the first of several composite sketches. Before they could mount a search, however, the FBI had to figure out when Cooper abandoned ship. But that was easier said than done. None of the 4 crew members witnessed Cooper jumping from the plane, nor did the pilots of 2 fighter jets which escorted the flight between Seattle and Reno. Which is not all too surprising given it was the middle of the night. Although the flight crew did report something odd, the last communication with the hijacker occurred at approximately 8:05 p.m. when the crew used the intercom to offer assistance, which Cooper declined. Within the next 10 minutes, the crew experienced what they described as an oscillation or vibration of the aircraft. At the time, the crew suspected it might have been produced by Cooper's jump, and a subsequent recreation of the hijacking supported that conclusion. Okay, so that took care of the when, but what about the where? While Cooper was very explicit about the flight's configuration and destination, he never specified any kind of route. In fact, Cooper grew so impatient with the slow refueling in Seattle that he dismissed the captain's request to file a flight plan and simply told him to, quote, get the show on the road. As such, the captain chose to fly along an airway known as Victor 23 without any input from Cooper. By using Victor 23 as a guide, authorities estimated the most probable location of the flight at the approximated time of the jump was about 40 kilometers north of Portland. And so, at the break of dawn, the FBI mounted an impressive search operation using helicopters, airplanes, and ground troops. The problem was, even if the estimated bailout point was accurate, Cooper's eventual landing or drop zone was far more difficult to pinpoint. The
Fuck, it's so cool! This guy's like an actual galaxy brain anime villain.
By a dense forest, so it was truly like finding a needle in a haystack. Apart from the difficult terrain, the search was further complicated by low temperatures and inclement weather, which persisted for days. Despite their best efforts, authorities never managed to find a single trace of Cooper, nor the items he brought along with him. Having made little to no progress by early December, the FBI turned their attention to the $200,000 ransom. The money had been collected from the Seattle First National Bank, which maintained a ransom package of $250,000 just for such an occasion. Because of this, the serial numbers of the $10,020 banknotes given to Cooper had been documented in advance, a complete list of which were quickly made available to financial institutions, government agencies, and the general public. The intention was to make it as difficult as possible for Cooper to spend his money. Northwest Airlines and several newspapers even began to offer rewards to anyone who could find a note with a matching serial number. In spite of these efforts, no one ever did. That is until nearly a decade later. In early 1980, a young boy named Brian Ingram was building a campfire on a small beach in southern Washington. As he was digging into the sand, Ingram discovered 3 bundles of cash totaling $5,880. Having heard about the infamous skyjacking, Ingram's parents brought the severely degraded bundles to the FBI. The notes were promptly inspected, and sure enough, the serial numbers matched those of the ransom.
Fuck, big fine Brian. Imagine being like an 8-year-old, fucking drinking milk, shitting in your diapers, and finding that.
It answered, the most significant of which was how? How did the money end up so far away from the drop zone? Looking at this map, it might be tempting to think that Cooper simply dropped
We're gonna check out the Summoning Salt Halo 2 records. I was talking to him earlier. He actually told me about this a couple months, well, it was like only a little over a month ago. And I've been so hyped for him to drop it. I still think Halo 2's got such a fucking good speedrun route. The tech in this game is amazing. Thanks to resub, Olivia, in the Prime.
If you've
chum.
ever tried playing Halo 2 on Legendary difficulty, you know that it's one of gaming's most brutal challenges. It goes way beyond.
It is one of the
hardest
most
settings
difficult,
most
hardest
games.
settings.
Enemies are stronger, they're more plentiful, and they kill you almost instantly. Beating Halo 2 on Legendary is a serious achievement. But one group of gamers takes it a step further. They strive to beat Halo 2 Legendary as fast as physically possible. And through thousands of collective hours from the game's best players, they've taken the record to unimaginable levels.
God, it's so
This is the
optimized.
history of Halo 2 world records.
I don't think he touches on it in this video, if I had to guess, but there was actually so much controversy with some of the early Halo 2 runs. In fact, I recall vaguely, I can't remember the details. Bungie ran a competition for, like, beating Halo 2 the fastest, and there was a guy who completely fucking fabricated everything. He cheated. And he was hyped up as, like, the best in the game ever, like, the ultimate Halo 2 gamer, and then he had to do it live one time, and he couldn't even beat it. Like, he couldn't even beat the fucking run a single time. Like, he couldn't even beat the game. I can't remember his name, but it was such a great video on it. I think... who was it? I watched so much Halo 2 history like 5 or 6 months ago. Who posted that video? It was a great documentary. It was Rocket Sloth. Okay. Yeah, Rocket Sloth made a whole video on it. It's so good. There was a lot of controversy on like the early Halo speedrunning stuff. I don't remember where to go. Yeah. Billy Mitchell. Nah, Billy Mitchell hasn't touched anything outside of a fucking arcade cabinet. We're gonna check out the Summoning Salt Halo 2 records. I was talking to him earlier. He actually told me about this a couple months, well, it was like only a little over a month ago. And I've been so hyped for him to drop it. I still think Halo 2's got such a fucking good speedrun route. The tech in this game is amazing. Thanks to resub, Olivia, in the Prime.
If you've
chum.
ever tried playing Halo 2 on Legendary difficulty, you know that it's one of gaming's most brutal challenges. It goes way beyond.
It is one of the
hardest
most
settings
difficult,
most
hardest
games.
settings.
Enemies are stronger, they're more plentiful, and they kill you almost instantly. Beating Halo 2 on Legendary is a serious achievement. But one group of gamers takes it a step further. They strive to beat Halo 2 Legendary as fast as physically possible. And through thousands of collective hours from the game's best players, they've taken the record to unimaginable levels.
God, it's so
This is the
optimized.
history of Halo 2 world records.
I don't think he touches on it in this video, if I had to guess, but there was actually so much controversy with some of the early Halo 2 runs. In fact, I recall vaguely, I can't remember the details. Bungie ran a competition for, like, beating Halo 2 the fastest, and there was a guy who completely fucking fabricated everything. He cheated. And he was hyped up as, like, the best in the game ever, like, the ultimate Halo 2 gamer, and then he had to do it live one time, and he couldn't even beat it. Like, he couldn't even beat the fucking run a single time. Like, he couldn't even beat the game. I can't remember his name, but it was such a great video on it. I think... who was it? I watched so much Halo 2 history like 5 or 6 months ago. Who posted that video? It was a great documentary. It was Rocket Sloth. Okay. Yeah, Rocket Sloth made a whole video on it. It's so good. There was a lot of controversy on like the early Halo speedrunning stuff. I don't remember where to go. Yeah. Billy Mitchell. Nah, Billy Mitchell hasn't touched anything outside of a fucking arcade cabinet. Couldn't have been Billy. Billy should start, like, actually just speedrunning every game. I may have cheated in everything else, but I swear to God, I'm legit when it comes to Hello Neighbor 2 speedrunning.
And now a word from this video's sponsor, Xbox Game Pass.
Speedrun RuneScape.
Valheim is now available to play on Xbox with Game Pass. And to celebrate, they're hosting a new speedrun competition. And you can participate right now. Here are the rules.
Oh wait,
The goal
chat
is to
told me
kill a
about this.
troll as fast as possible. Timing starts when the character takes their first step, and ends on the frame the troll dies.
It feels like it won't be that
It must
hard.
be on a new game with a new Viking, using the World Seed Game Pass, and it must be a solo run. All exploits and glitches are banned. The fastest 3 submissions will receive special rewards blessed by Odin himself. 1 of 3 custom controllers. To participate, upload a video of your run to YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok.
Charlie, do
The
it.
title
I'm not
must
good at
include
Valheim.
hashtag Game Pass Valheim Speedrun, and the video must be from your Xbox. The deadline is 5:59 p.m. Pacific Time on May 27th. See if you can enshrine yourself in speedrunning history.
This is a great
Best of luck.
sponsor.
Game
Whoever
Pass
whoever was in charge of this sponsorship really fucking nailed the placement here. This fits right at home on a Summoning Salt video, and that is like an actual great challenge. I think that's cool.
with hundreds of high-quality games like Valheim available on release day.
Thanks to the bits deal.
Discover your next favorite game with Xbox Game Pass.
And the resub Lauren. And not like a full lore video.
Halo
Teal.
2 has had a thriving speedrun scene ever since its release in 2004. Players competed on both individual levels and the full game on each of the 4 difficulty modes.
Thanks to tier 1.
While all these records were
Nerdy
lowered
Kirby.
over time, the
Hope
most
you've been well.
prestigious one was the full game Legendary speedrun, thanks to its incredible difficulty. Halo 2 Legendary was featured at GDQ events, and videos were shared all over the internet. It was a very popular speedrun. But the actual record timeline is another story. From 2004 through 2014, Halo 2's legendary world record was near continuously held by one player, Mr. Monopoly.
Yeah!
Monopoly became synonymous
Mono.
with Halo speedruns, holding records and playing the game at live events. But the timeline of the world record itself isn't all that interesting. Monopoly got the Halo 2 record in 2006 and remained dominant for the next 8 years.
Great run.
However, in June 2014, the Halo community got a big surprise. 343 Industries announced Halo the Master Chief Collection.
And the bigger surprise was the fact that it didn't work. Well, I guess actually all the campaigns worked fine. They were just the multiplayer didn't function for like 5 years.
A compilation of all the mainline Halo games. And to celebrate
Bone.
Halo 2's 10th anniversary, 343 was going to remaster it as Halo 2 Anniversary, with graphical upgrades and a few other changes. And it just so happens that members of their development team were speedrun fans. Big enough fans that they flew out Goat Rope and Monopoly, top speedrunners for the first 2 Halo games, to help playtest the games a few months before their release.
That's pretty cool.
They spent about 20 hours playtesting, then sat down with 343's franchise writer to name achievements after top Halo speedrunners. And fittingly,
That's actually
the
super
achievement
cool.
for beating Halo 2 Legendary quickly enough, monopolized. It's clear that from the get-go,
Thanks, Resub Lonely.
343 Industries designed Halo the Master Chief Collection with speedrunning in mind. While most of the games included were essentially identical to their original release, Halo 2 Anniversary was sufficiently different that it became its own speedrun category. So, right at the game's release in November 2014, players began running Halo 2 Anniversary. Monopoly and a runner named HockeyFan48 traded the legendary record back and forth in the first few days. But the first run we're going to look at came a few weeks later. Halo 2 Legendary, completed in 2 hours and 17 minutes by none other than Mr. Monopoly. First off, Monopoly went into this run expecting to die. A lot.
That's where the
It's
world
just
records
not
always
realistic
happen.
to have a deathless playthrough of Halo 2 on Legendary, unless you're going slowly and being extremely careful. Fortunately, there are checkpoints throughout each level, so when you die, you can quickly enter the menu and revert to the last checkpoint. But Monopoly didn't have to worry about dying too much in the first level, the Armory,
Is it tier
which
1
is essentially
anti?
a 2.5-minute cutscene that serves as a tutorial. Given the length of the run, we won't talk about every level in depth right now. But Cairo Station is the first real level, and Monopoly did his best to move quickly and ignore as many enemies as possible. When he had to fight them, he tried to clear out the elites quickly with an overcharged plasma pistol shot, then a headshot from the battle rifle. He also
There is a
sprayed
huge
to
difference in
try
the
and
route,
avoid
by the way,
being
between
shot.
Classic and Anniversary. This was like in the bounty, when we did the bounty for the skulls and all of that. In Classic, Cairo plays very different. You don't have to bother with this because you can do some wall clips fundamentally where you can skip. So what you saw right here, in Classic, what you can do is you can bounce into this box a lot to fuck up your hitbox, and then walk right through that wall and skip like half that. And you can do that a couple, I think it's 2 more times in that level, and you basically get to the very end. In Anniversary, you can't. You can no longer do the hitbox adjustments.
Shot, but still had to
So
take
Anniversary's
cover
got a
at
lot
times,
more
and was
fucking tender
careful
love and
to
care you
avoid
gotta
being
give to
too
the
aggressive.
combat.
Next up was Outskirts, which has a famous intended trick from the developers. By doing a series of grenade jumps, where you throw a grenade and time a jump to get a boost upwards, you can get on top of the buildings and make it out of bounds. This lets you skip fighting a long wave of enemies on the ground. The second half of the stage involves a lot of driving, and Monopoly switched to the Warthog since the Marines soak up a lot
Thanks,
of the
Resub.
damage and let you live longer.
Galaxy.
Eventually, Monopoly arrived at the Oracle. This is one of the longest levels in the run, with wave after wave of enemies to fight through. But he had tricks to help. On the elevator, you're normally supposed to slowly ride it all the way down.
But you
But
jump
if you
off
wait
into
for
the
a
side.
death box to despawn, you can fall off the edge and land on the